What's going on, guys? Hey, before I get started on this episode, I actually just wanted to pre-frame this a tad. So I actually recorded this quite a while ago. I think it was July or August of last year. So it was a little bit ago, and I just wanted to just kind of pre-frame this a little bit. Now, the audio on this episode is a little bit off for some reason. I can't seem to get it fixed. So bear with me on that, but I did record this a while ago, and it was actually about a legendary Rallycross driver named Ken Block. So just bear with me on the audio for this, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. What is going on, guys? Hey, this is Colton Woods, and you are listening to another episode of Learning from the Experts. And today, I want to actually walk you through or talk about some of the things that I learned from the legendary Rallycross driver, Ken Block. So here's the deal. I know how frustrating it is to waste countless hours sifting through wannabe experts who never actually help you in the end. Then to learn years later that there was a real expert who could have helped you 100 times faster than learning it on your own. I have created this podcast to save you time and money while taking you on a journey with me as I learn from real experts who can actually help you grow your business. My name is Colton Woods, and you're listening to Learning from the Experts. Hey, what's going on, guys? So a couple weekends ago, I actually got the opportunity to be one of Ken Block's guests at the Rallycross for Red Bull, which is a super huge event. Travis Pastrana, if you don't know who he is, he's like the biggest man in that sport, like in those sports. I mean, period. In motors or dirt bikes, everything. Like, he is crazy into those kind of sports, Rallycross especially too. Anyway, so he puts on the event called Nitro World Games, and I actually got to attend it and be able to kind of meet Ken Block and be with his crew and see how they all work and how they do it. And not only that, I got to see a lot of like the insides of how they operate and the different issues they were having, and also like their tactics, which I thought was really interesting and really cool. So the guy who actually hooked me up, that was a follower of Steve Larson, ended up meeting or talking to me, and we kind of got acquainted. And then he's like, "Hey, dude, I work for these guys named Ken Block and Travis Pastrana. I don't know if you know who they are." And I'm like, "Dude, heck yes, I know who they are. They're freaking legendary." And so we got acquainted there, and I'm like, "That's crazy. You work with them. Like, that's super awesome." Those guys, I've watched their stuff for years now. Really respect them a ton, and they both put out a ton of content, so they are both marketers as well, which is really cool. So we were talking, he's like, "Hey man, we're going to be racing at the Nitro World Games, and we'd love to have you there as a guest, and you can kind of hang out, meet the crew, check out how we do it, and do those different things." And I'm like, "Oh man, this is it's like a dream come true right there." That's like stuff I dreamed of as a kid, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so his name is David Mansfield, and so he totally hooked me up. And he's like, "Dude, it's really cool to see because it really relates to business on how it, like, we run it. It's only like 100 times faster though," which is pretty cool. So he actually is like the coach. Like, he kind of coaches Ken Block through his driving as he's driving, which means he has to be super fast at it, make really quick decisions, and help Ken make the quickest decisions and the best decisions that's going to make him the best time. So it was really interesting watching all of this. They would get out there, they'd start racing, and David Mansfield would be up on this stand kind of watching everybody race around, and he had a headset on, and he would talk to Ken as he's driving. And so I'm watching this, and literally it's like split-second decisions, and like, okay, like, this is what's coming on up, this is going to be the best way to take that turn, or so-and-so is on your outside, you need to push them out and cut into the turn here, like, you need to do this, oh, you need to take this path on the next one, you need to get around them here, I've noticed that these people are doing this. And so it's just really interesting to watch. And then what was actually also very interesting was just to see how well they were able to race, but then when, like, they were having the worst time with tires blowing out. Like, these are brand new tires, like really expensive, nice tires, and they're just shredding them. I guess that's what happens when you have 700 horsepower in a tiny little car and you are on the gas pedal all the time. So makes sense, I guess. But it was interesting to see how they kind of got through it. And what I also, okay, so here's the kicker. Here's the biggest takeaway that I got from this. Besides all the little things like the coaching through, the going, going around, like pushing people through this corner and cutting them here and doing all this like cool, like tactical stuff. There was one spot or one time, I guess one thing in the event that really stood out to me, and what makes Ken Block the man who he is, I feel like. So I believe it's like the second race of the day. Now, let me pre-frame this a little bit. This is, so Rallycross is, they're in these cars, like a lot of them are Subarus. Ken Block drives this Ford Fiesta, which is literally not a Fiesta anymore. Like, there literally is no stock parts left on it. These cars cost $750,000 a piece. Yes, you heard that right. $750,000, $750,000 per car, and they have 3 of them. So that's, yeah, these cars are nuts. It's not a little Ford Fiesta you would go buy at the dealership for $14,000. Definitely highly, insanely modified. And yeah, anyway, so they drive these cars around, and it's on a pavement track, and they're burning tires everywhere. Like, they're sliding sideways, all 4 tires are burning, and they have to come around the corner sliding and make it through it as quick as they can, and then come around another corner as they pivot and slide the other way. It's crazy stuff. If you want to see an example of what I'm talking about, the Gymkhana videos on YouTube is literally like what made them big, and it's kind of what he just started for fun and then became a franchise. And Gymkhana being Gymkhana, I believe that's how you spell it. I could totally be wrong. Anyway, Gymkhana, like, so the latest one that just came out was Gymkhana 10, which is completely epic, by the way. And really, they just do these crazy stunts, these crazy driving around in like cities like Chicago and LA, different places that are just epic to see. And they record these and they come out with the best stunts they can, and then it's super entertaining for that area. Well, this track was at the Nitro World Games was mostly dirt, which is highly, like, way different than most of them. Since they're all mostly pavement, this is a lot different because it's all dirt. There was a pavement section in there, but it really wasn't much. And I don't know, super cool. And then the jump is like a world record jump. Now they're in a car, and there's a 110-foot jump on the track. 110 feet in a car. And by the time they actually get off the jump and land, it's usually about 120 feet or more. That's like a massive jump. Like, I don't even know if you can picture that. It's huge. Let alone in a car. Like, that's massive on a dirt bike. In a car, that's insane. So they have to hit this jump at like 75 miles an hour at least, and you don't want to be going over 80 or like 78. You want to be between like 75 and 80, or 75 and 78 or something like that. He was telling me, and I forget the exact numbers, but he's like, yeah, if I hit that jump at like 85, I'm like toast, because I'll land on this flat part and probably break my back in the process, because I'll hit so hard. Which he actually ended up hitting the last race of the day. He actually ended up hitting the jump at like 82, and he was definitely hurting from it. He's like, man, that was not good. Anyway, so they have to hit this jump super fast. Well, on the second race of the day, they're riding around, and he's in first. And like for the first 2 laps, he's in first. What I didn't realize at first was that he actually blew his back right tire in the first lap. Literally shredded it in the first lap. Well, then he kept it in first place the second lap, and then he kind of fell behind a little bit on the third lap. Well, I knew his tire was shredded for sure in the second lap. And what's crazy is like I'm watching him and he's driving around with this shredded tire and he's still just going crazy with it, just making it happen. And I see him coming around and there's a part where you can hit the 110-foot jump, or you can go to the right, or you can go to the left. There's like 3 different ways. And typically if you have a broken tire or a shredded tire, you're going to go to the right or the left, right? And so I see him coming up to that spot and I'm like, it kind of looks like he's going for the jump in the middle. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, how would he, like, why? How would he ever just, yeah, anyway. So I'm like, there's no way he's actually going for it. It probably just looks like he's going in the middle, which kind of looks similar to when they go to the right. No, sure enough, he hits his jump with a flat tire and totally clears it and makes it. And I think he hit it again after that, but I know he hit it at least once. But that one time, I remember just watching it like, holy cow, this is blowing my mind right now that he is literally hitting this jump with a flat tire. Nobody does that. Like, nobody does that. Everybody's like, oh, I got a flat tire. I got to make it, I got to take it easy. I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to keep it safe, whatever it may be. Well, it's interesting to me because so many rallycross drivers, you don't actually really know who many of them are. Literally, you don't know who many of them are. And what's interesting about that is none of them publish or get out and talk or have any videos about them or stunts that they do or rallycross driving at all. What's really interesting is Ken Block is, I would say, arguably the most well-known drift, like rallycross person out there, besides maybe Travis Pastrana, but he had, some other stuff. Anyway, as far as rallycross, I almost think Ken Block's probably the most well-known and known as like the best rallycross driver out there. What's really interesting, I know I've said that like 5 times, is even though he's known for that, he's actually never won like first place in a podium on like championships. I mean, he's won races and he's gotten like second or third in plenty of them, but he's not actually like the number 1 driver in the world, but he's known more than any other driver out there in the world. And therefore he's associated as one of the best drivers in the world. I don't know if that maybe lights up a few light bulbs or not, but to me it did. And as I saw him take this jump with a flat tire, I mean, I already knew this, but it reaffirmed to me that he knows what he's doing. He's very much different. And it's funny, I was actually just reading this book, Niche Down. Niche Down is an amazing book, by the way. So I was reading Niche Down, and it talks about how being better will get you nowhere, literally in business, but being different is huge. Any category king out there, any business that is like the number 1, the top business out there, it's because they were different. They did something differently. An example that I was actually walking through and I was talking to my wife about it, which is kind of funny. Pepsi spent billions of dollars on ads that were just a complete flop, really, because the ad was Pepsi is better than Coke. And so they would have these taste tests, like taste it for yourself, Pepsi, it's better than Coke. And what's really funny about that is they totally just shot themselves in the foot, because now they're trying to argue that they're better, which is a race to the bottom, really. Like, if you do that in any business, you're just going to start competing on price at that point, and people aren't going to really care who you are unless you're the cheapest, which sucks to be that person, essentially. And so if Pepsi's doing this, and the problem is they were pitching themselves as better than Coke. Well, in reality, they just set Coke up to be the best because they're pushing more of their focus towards Coke. And so now people are seeing Pepsi ads for Coke, which is not what you want to do, because that's your number 1 competition. And yet you're like showing everybody that they're better than you. That's not a very good idea. That's not a very good thing to do. Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because now everybody's going to see or associate that Coke is better than Pepsi, because you're essentially saying that subconsciously. So There was another example, though, that I've always kind of thought about. Now, you can always pit yourself against another company that you're different from. And if Pepsi would have done this, it would have been a whole lot better for them. But Pepsi did not pit themselves as different from Coke. They pitted themselves as better than Coke, and that's where they got it wrong. One good example is Apple. So Apple actually used to have these Mac versus PC commercials. And I mean, unlike Pepsi, they weren't talking about how they were better per se. It was more of how we're different. And that actually kind of separated the two. And what's really cool about that is PC was bigger than Mac at the time, right? So they're definitely, like, they were a smaller company, or PC's a lot bigger than Mac. So what's cool about that is you can pit yourself against, so Mac can pit themselves against PC and say that they're different. Now, if they would have said, hey, we're better, that would have been actually a pretty bad campaign. It could have helped them a little bit because they were a bit smaller at the time, but because they pitted themselves as different, well, it does two things. It shows that they're not trying to take the PC customers. Essentially, they're just trying to show people that we do things differently. And if you want to be different, if you want to see something different, if you want to use a different product that is more fitted to you, that's us. This is what we do. There's a whole lot. Anyway, and then the second thing is, since Mac was smaller than PC by a bit at that time, by associating themselves with PC, by throwing rocks against PC at the time, they kind of almost brought themselves up to kind of the same area, because now they're associating with PC, the biggest person out there. And then once you get to about the same level, so once Mac and PC are kind of close, you can't be throwing rocks anymore, because then you'll take PC with you. Mac would take them with them, because now they're still associating with them, and so PC's going to grow with them, because now they're putting focus on them. Same thing with Pepsi. Pepsi was throwing focus on Coke, and Coke's still number one. Obviously that didn't work for them, and they spent billions of dollars. Mac did it a little bit differently and said, hey, this is why we're different than them. Not necessarily, and they were definitely throwing rocks, that's for sure, but not all of the time. It was more of like, hey, this is why we aren't the same thing. So don't categorize us as the same thing. We can do things differently in this way. And people are like, oh, I like that. So they go there. And then as Apple got to be as big as PC, they stopped talking about PC. It's the same thing with ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels was throwing rocks at a few different companies, Infusionsoft, which they called Confusionsoft, and a couple other ones, but they would throw rocks at them as they were smaller. Well, then they got to be about the same size, and that's when you stop talking about anybody that's your size or lower, because you'll bring them with you. You'll add attention to them, so you always go for the bigger. And then once you get to that spot, you cut it. So, I feel like I probably just barfed a bunch of stuff all over you guys right there. So hopefully that was good. Hopefully that helped you understand a few different things there. Guys, don't create a better product. Oh, it drove me nuts in college. People were always building a product that was better than the other one. That is a horrible idea. That is a horrible way to go. You're just setting yourself up for failure. Category kings on average own about 75% of the market, and the other 25% is literally left to the other hundreds of companies that try to say they're different. Don't be that person. If there's a category king out there and you want to be better than them, you're already screwed. Don't even think about it. Don't even try it. Make yourself different. Then you can create your own niche. You can create your own category there. So hopefully that helped you guys today. Sorry it's been a while since I've been on. Yeah, I've had lots of other distractions and things going on around me, and OfferMind is coming up. I feel like I've talked about way too many things, but OfferMind is coming up this weekend, actually, which I'm really excited about. We've been going kind of nuts with that. I'm so freaking stoked about how much is going into it and how awesome it's going to be. For all of you that are listening, that are coming off for mine, or that went to offer mine, you will know it's amazing. It's a yearly event though, and if you missed out, I'm telling you, go to offermind.com, check it out. You will not miss out. If you do marketing, if you need to create your offer and differentiate or position yourself the way you need, or differently, or the way you should, definitely want to hit up OfferMind. So anyway, full circle, Ken Block, the reason he is the man and the reason he is bigger than the rest is because he is different. He does things differently. While like when he would be racing on a Rallycross race, and that he knew he was going to lose, he would literally just drive like way different than everybody else and show off, or like not show off, but like jump way higher than the rest. And people would talk about him more than the winner. That's another golden nugget there. Be different. People talk about you more than those who are just good at what they do. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully that's cool, guys. Thank you so much for being on here, and we will talk to y'all later.
Are you looking to jumpstart your business by learning or getting help from the real experts? Go to learningfromtheexperts.com to find pre-approved experts that I've handpicked for you. Please don't forget to let me know how I'm doing by subscribing, rating, and leaving feedback.